Thank you for coming. I'm Donald Summers, Altruist Partners. We want to do a very brief overview today on our methodology. And Don was nice enough to come in to talk a little bit about our results that we've been fortunate enough to create with dozens of organizations. And now we're at the point where we want to scale up our own delivery of services. I'm grateful to my partners and colleagues coming in today. I've been working as a single operator for about 7 or 8 years, refining this model. My background is as a teacher and a former high school principal. I'm also an ex-foundation CEO, so I've raised money and given it away. And I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing, and hopefully you'll leave this seminar today with tools. You've got some pieces of paper in front of you, and you'll leave it with the tools you can use and specific strategies that you can use by yourself. Okay? So with that, I want to begin. We want to accelerate your performance, and there's a couple of pieces on here. We have a very specific tagline, ambitious for good. We loved working with Treehouse because they wanted to solve a problem. Fundamental to our practices, we want to work with organizations with BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals that are aspirationally going to achieve something, and they're going to go after it courageously. That's the starting point. Everybody in this room, particularly if you work in the nonprofit sector, we struggle. There's a number of very challenging conversations that people have about the nonprofit sector and its performance. And people talk about the differences between the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector. And we want to talk a little bit about that today because it's really important to keep that 30,000-foot view. What are the big ideas? What's the big framework that we need to keep in mind as we approach the challenges that we're facing with our own nonprofits? So quick background. As you all know, $1.5 trillion are in the nonprofit sector. That is almost 10% of our economy. It's huge. It's growing faster than the private sector. It's growing faster than the government sector. The nonprofit sector is taking off. There's almost 1.5 million nonprofits, but the average size of these nonprofits is $500,000 a year. It's literally 1 million points of light. Incredibly diffuse, rich sector. I've often heard the story, if you drew a circle 20 miles in diameter around where we are today, we're going to encompass, 15,000 nonprofits. There's a lot in this community alone. Okay? This is amazing. I read this in the Stanford Social Innovation Review a couple years ago. Blew my mind. It encapsulated the challenge of the sector. Since 1970, fewer than 150 nonprofits have grown past $10 million in revenue. 65,000 for-profits have. Incredible. So what's wrong with this picture? There's a lot of explanations for it. But when you see that, you ask yourself, what great ideas, what world-changing, problem-solving, children-saving, disease-fixing, joy-adding programs in the world are not getting funded into scale? You've got 1 million of them, but only a few of them are getting big. What's going on? Just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you're going to want to make a lot of money. Don't confuse your tax status with your business model. I remember sitting at the university, I worked at the University of Washington for 5 years. The University of Washington has, $1.75 million a day in cash coming into its organization as giving, right? April Johnson has worked as a major gift officer there for many years. I was there for 5 years. Voracious universities. Harvard just announced a $6.5 billion campaign. The big museums, the big hospitals, they're tearing it up with their fundraising. They're the 1% in the nonprofits. Meanwhile, you've got these millions of nonprofits that are tiny shops that are going for scraps. How do we give those small nonprofits those same big nonprofit methodologies? That's the picture we want to establish. And first of all, we've got to stop getting confused about who you are and why you're on this planet. So I remember sitting in a meeting with the president of the University of Washington and the provost, and they were teaching a seminar. And they say, we're not confused. We are a business. We're in the business of education. Anybody have any challenges around that? Students, okay, it's a business. Okay? But when you go to a nonprofit, a smaller shop, filled with passion, they have a wonderful program. You ask them, are you a business? Oh, we're not like a business. So you have all these nonprofits, and they're struggling with their business process. They're in a resource scarce environment. This has been nuclear winter for nonprofits. So you have all of these pieces to help. There's all of these things. If you work in the nonprofit world, you have all these concepts from campaigns to strategic planning to marketing to social media. And it's like all of these people, and you have a bunch of consultants jumping up and down. We're here to help you. Where do you start? It's confusing. How do we get those small nonprofits? How do we get them big? How do we overcome those challenges when you've got all this noise? Okay? The literature is all over the place. Everybody's got another say. You're coming to yet another seminar on how to raise money, right? Oh, here we go again. Stop. One thing that I've learned in 8 years of doing this, we live in an age of information overload. We need to keep it really simple. So I'm going to walk through 3 basic tools that this isn't so much as an X of like crossing it out. We want to bring all this together. We want to give a methodology for nonprofits that's everything that you need and nothing more. That's effective, that's affordable, and that'll work with your program areas. And these are all valuable tools and strategies and pieces, but we need the big 10. We need the big overarching process. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How many of you in this nonprofit room, let's have a raise of hands, have a business plan with a 3 to 5 year financial projection that details how you're going to raise money by all 5 revenue domains: individuals, foundations, foundations, corporations, government agencies, and earned income. You've got a 5-year plan. You've got programmatic metrics and milestones. Peter, I know you do. You teach business. So this is what we developed at Treehouse. That's what they needed. Very short, 5 to 10 pages. Let's look at the business plan template. Take this first sheet right here. We boil it down into 6 questions. And this is not mission, vision, values. We don't want to get caught in that stuff. We want to be very specific. We're going to talk to people like we're a software startup. We're going after venture capital money in Silicon Valley. We have 30 seconds or we're done. We better be really crisp and tight with our messaging. And it's a whole new way of thinking if you're a nonprofit. Normally we speak volumes, we have long literatures, we want long conversations. We've got to tighten it up and think and act like a business without losing our soul. Okay? This isn't about compromise. What problem are you solving? Okay? You're not dreaming big and having a little tiny solution. You're going to solve the problem. Remember we talked about aspirational goals? Don Raines got up here and said they're going to take high school graduation rates for our most vulnerable children and increase them from 40 to 80%. That's solving a problem. It has national implications. What problem are you solving? Are you ready to solve it? Why are you the best? Why you? If you're a private company, you're going to say, what's our unique value proposition? What's our competitive advantage? All that stuff. You got to think in those same terms. So I had a conversation with a homeless shelter. I've done lots of fundraising for the homeless. I love it. It's incredibly important. But there's 5 youth homeless shelters in Seattle. And when they came to me and talked to me about raising some money, I said, why you? Why are you unique? Because you're going to be talking to people and say, why this one? Why not that one? We have to empathize with our donors. We have to come up with a really crisp reason why to give. It's got to be short. So what proof do you have? What's success look like? What are your milestones? How are you measuring reporting progress? All of these things. In 6 questions, if you can just bullet point your answers, you'll have the outlines of a business plan. And chances are you probably already have this material, but do you have it down where it's this quick? You can explain it to someone who's impatient over-caffeinated and is hearing a bunch of other appeals from other organizations. How crisp and tight can you make it? Here's our vision for success. You cost out that success. What's going to take us to get there, right? And then you're already on your way to building a financial projection. You're going to say, we're going to spend this much in year 1, this much in year 2, this much in year 3. You're creating a forward vision, right? And then you get all this wrapped up into a business plan, 5, 10 pages at the most. And what's essential is what Dawn talked about, taking it out into the community as a draft. Connie Kravis at the University of Washington once described fundraising as taking outsiders and making them insiders. Why most nonprofits don't have authentic, transparent conversations with their donors. They come to them with appeals. Why don't you come to them with a business plan that isn't done, that you're not quite sure about, like we did with Treehouse? They boiled their entire program model down to 5 pages, and they took it out to the centers of influence and the biggest funders that they could find, and said, we're not quite sure. And they got feedback back that said, that financial projection isn't quite right. Or, I'm not sure about this. I didn't understand your program model. Tighten it up. And they did. How many iterations did they do on that? 5. You should see their business plan now. It sings. And they involved their donors in a really authentic conversation about where they're going. They got their feedback. What's the old expression? Peter, you've heard this. You ask for money, you get advice. You ask for advice, you get money. Well, let's institutionalize that wisdom by writing a business plan, but being brave enough to show your audience that you're not certain and you want to engage them as a partner. And then you create concentric circles. So when we work with a client, I'm writing a business plan this weekend for the Chimpanzee Sanctuary Northwest. Great organization. Never had a business plan. Never had a financial projection. Where are we going? So I'm going to start it. I've got some ideas that I got from Jennifer Whitaker, incredible new ED. We're going to bounce it back and forth. Then we're going to take it to the executive committee. Then we're going to take it to the board. Then we're going to take it to the staff. Then they're going to take it to their next people, next people, next people, and they're going to radiate it outwards. Concentric circles. There's a Zen cone that you can use to describe fundraising. Fundraising is like dropping stone into calm water. It radiates outward. That's what you do with your business plan.